What are you going to do when 50 people show up at your doorstep during some SHTF event? I have heard that same question, or a very similar question, asked so many times, whether it be in my comment section, someone else's comment section, or a Facebook group comment section. What are we going to do when 50 people show up at our doorstep? When 50 people show up at our bug out location, or our retreat, or our homestead? How are we, the preppers, the homesteaders, going to protect ourselves and our families and that location from 50 people? So today's video we're discussing, what if 50 refugees show up at your house, or what if 50 marauders show up at your house? Most refugee groups, if you could describe them as that, are going to be a mixed bag. Most of them, at least for the initial period, are going to be non-hostile, right? They just got out of some sort of disaster scenario. They're not looking for a fight. They're not looking to pull up and start swinging on somebody. They're just trying to get somewhere safe. They're trying to get the kids, the wives, the grandparents that are with them somewhere safe. Think of September 11th, right? That created thousands of refugees because people had to leave Manhattan. They weren't necessarily looking to fight. They weren't looking to steal. They weren't looking to loot. They were just looking to get out of the dangerous area. How would I play that out? Would I welcome them in with arms wide open? What would I give them? Would I give them anything? Would I tell them to scoot along? Would I pull my AR out and get ready to shoot them all? No. Initially, they're not going to be terrible people. They're not going to be bad people. Maybe if I had a little extra water to give, yeah, I can give water. I got a well, I got creeks in my backyard. I can give fresh water. I can let them wash themselves off from whatever they're contaminated with. I might not be able to let them stay the night, but I can say, here, everyone take a couple glasses of water and just be on your way. There's a church a few miles down the road. There's a store a few miles down the road. I get that you just got out of this terrible situation, but I can't help you more than a couple glasses of water. If I had rice to give, or some basic meal, maybe I would fix it for them. If I'm not affected by whatever the scenario is, I might be more willing to help out. So I might say something like, hey, listen, you can't stay here, but you can sit down for a little while. I'll fix you up some rice, I'll give you some water, and you can be on your way. Again, these are non-hostile people. These are a mixed bag between women, between children, between people, old people, young people, people that barely know each other, right? It's not a group that is focused on taking and stealing and looting and robbing. So if they do kick back and say, hey, you know what, you're the first person to give us anything, I think we'll just stay here, that's when you start getting more self-defensive. And that's when you say, listen, terrible idea, let me show you why. Again, at least initially, most refugees are non-hostile. Now, if it's been 3, 4, 5, 6 days since anyone's even offered them some water to drink, then yeah, they might start getting a little bit antsy. But they're not going to hit some random farmhouse. They're not going to hit some random dude on some random street. They're going to say, hey, I know a dollar store's up this way. I know there's a gas station up this way. I know Walmart's over here. Let's go hit that up. Because that's more resources. Think of it from your personal perspective. If there was a hurricane and you had to loot for supplies, you had no other option, you had to loot for supplies, are you going to break into someone's house, or are you going to go break into the dollar store? Chances are, at least where I live, homeowners have weapons. They have ways to defend, and now it's the castle doctrine where you can protect your home. I can walk 2 miles this way and go find a Dollar General where no one cares if you steal things from it. Police aren't getting called. I can be in and out before anyone even notices it. I'm breaking into the store in that scenario. So if 50 refugees show up, if you can give, give. If you don't want to give, don't give. But at least give them directions. Hey, the next church is. Hey, the next store is. Right? Don't just be like, sorry bud, can't help you. Here's my AR, keep moving. You don't have to get defensive until it's time to get defensive. Now, let's move on to marauders. The idea that there's going to be roaming bands of marauders, that there's going to be people just rummaging through an SHTF end of the world scenario, willing to kill, willing to steal, willing to loot everything you have because you looked at them the wrong way, and there's going to be bands of them, not just one or two, but 50 people deep, roaming the countryside, taking whatever they can. That idea is humorous to me. The people who promote that idea are asinine. Now, I'm not saying it won't ever happen. I'm just saying, show me in world history where it has happened. Yes, there are gangs. Yes, there are people who, in groups, will break in, steal stuff. I'm not saying there's not. But the idea of SHTF just happened, right? We have nationwide blackouts. We have nationwide power outages, cell phone outages, communication outages, and you're going to go, hey, let's get 50 people together and go take over this homestead that's a few miles down the road. It's kind of stupid, at least in my opinion. The people who think that way have watched too much Walking Dead, have played too much Call of Duty, have seen too many shitty war movies. They will use the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Black Lives Matter, the January 6th protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, as examples of what we get to look forward to during some sort of SHTF event. As soon as the power goes out, we're going to have homegrown Al-Qaeda agents running around in bands of 50 and 100 plus people. Because we have it before, right? We have the Black Lives Matter protests. We've had the January 6th riots. My gosh, these people are out there. What am I going to do if 50 marauders show up to my house, right? They're coming down the street. They're burning. They're looting. They're stealing. They're robbing. I'm hearing gunshots. What can you do? If you have 50 armed individuals knocking down your door, you can't do anything. Right? Unless you can take it over by the numbers and you've got 50 people to match, or you've got a great defensive system in place, you can't take on 50 people. The U.S. military learned during Iraq, Afghanistan, World War II, all these conflicts that we've been in, that to take over an area, you have to bring the firepower 4 to 1. So if they have one person, you need to bring 4. If they have 25 people, you need to bring 4 times the amount. Because a well-defended area with columns, with defensive bunkers, with different shooting areas is easy to maintain. So with that in mind, in theory, you could take on a roaming band of marauders that is 50 deep and well armed with a minimum of 13 people, as long as you have proper defense. Now, I don't know if you've been to most farms, most homesteads, most bug out locations. They're not set up to be castles, except for the Doomsday Castle that then got broken into. Most homesteads are not that way. Most farms are not that way. Most areas are not that way. You're not going to be able to defend something if your only defensive fighting position is the bush in the front yard. If 50 marauders are coming down your street, burning, looting, robbing, killing, raping everything in sight, your best bet is to grab as much as you can. Weapons, food, gun, people, and to book off. Get out of that area. Get out of that position. Then, maybe, do some guerrilla fighting, right? 1 versus 2. 2 versus 1. Maybe every night, go in, take out 2 or 3 of their guys. And then those numbers start dwindling. But to take on a roaming band of marauders that's well armed, head on, 50 people deep, with just you, you're not going to make it. Let me go ahead and tell you that right now. I don't care how good your YouTube channel is, how much you shoot, how much ammo you have, you're not going to make it. 50 people shooting at you, you're one person, good luck. Now let me explain why I think the entire idea of 50 armed marauders coming to your door to kick it down is a stupid idea. For that to happen, something absolutely terrible would have to happen. We're talking a nationwide power outage for 30, 40, 50 days plus. We're talking a Great Depression that has wiped out everything that we know of. We're talking hyperinflation where people can't afford absolutely anything. We're talking a nationwide communication outage. So for this scenario, let's pretend that a 45-day power outage has occurred. What does that mean? That means no power for 45 days. Very simple. That means communication has been down for probably close to 30 days. Because these cell phone towers only have so much backup generator juice. And when they go out, so does your communication. A lot of people can lose power but not communication because they have backup generators. That means that most generators, home-based generators, are running out of fuel by this point. That means that the water system has been down for 30, 45 days. Most people have ran out of food at this point. So they're venturing in the street, seeing what they can find. Most big retail stores, or even small mom and pop shops, have been looted, if not destroyed. Most cities would probably be under martial law or burnt down to the ground. So that occurs, right? And you have your little homestead outside of town, a couple miles, you got your bug out location, whatever it is, right? You're a few miles outside of town. How do you think the 50 people are going to get to your house? These people have been without food, without communication, without the internet, without AC, water, for 45 days at this point. Who's going to lead them there? So you have one guy standing in the middle of town, screaming his lungs off. I know of a homestead that's 10 miles outside of town. I need 50 armed people to go with me to take over this homestead. And when we get there, man, we're going to share the resources. Everyone is going to eat. Nobody is going to starve. Plenty of water to go around. If you're in that crowd, are you going to believe this guy? Because he has no way of proving it, right? He hasn't taken pictures on the homestead because his phone's been down. He wants you to be armed. Well, by this point, all the wild game's been hunted out. Those people who did have firearms are probably starting to run low on ammo because of self-defense and hunting, what little they did. So, is he supplying the ammo, or do you have to supply it? He says he wants us to be armed. Wait a minute, that means that Mr. Farmer Joe over here is probably going to shoot us back, because why else would we have to be armed? Is it worth the risk? How do I know that this random guy screaming his lungs off is not going to take me 5 miles outside of town and shoot me and steal my gun? And I get it. People do dumb things when they're hungry, when they're starving. But you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to trust this random stranger that you have no clue and you've never met before this event happened? Is it worth it to trust him? And now you need 50 of us to trust him. To trust that he's telling the truth about some homestead. To trust that when we get there and we take it over, he's not just going to shoot us in the back. To trust that it's actually there and he's not just out to loot our stuff. This very same situation has probably happened multiple times in multiple different countries going through some sort of hyperinflation scenario. Some dude will get on the street corner and say, you know what, we need to take over this area that's outside of town. Because I've seen it with my own eyes. I know that they have food, I know they have water, I know they have weapons and ammo and enough food for everyone to eat. How many places like that have been taken over during these hyperinflation scenarios? Probably none. And one thing that I can tell you is that there's a lot of individuals, both here on YouTube and watching, who when the first bullet starts flying, they're gone. You will never see them again. And I'm not talking about dead in the dirt, I'm talking about they're tucking tail and running. A lot of people show up, right? Man, I'm the toughest SOB around. Until the bullets start flying. Now you have to find 50 people, 50 strangers, who are willing to accept death in exchange for some food. Good luck. right? The reason BLM, January 6th, all of these protests have been successful is because of communication. If communication goes down, so does all your planning. So how are you supposed to plan something with no communication? How are you supposed to plan something with no evidence that it's there? Me personally, in a situation like that, I'm not going to trust some dude that says I need to risk my life so that he can have a meal. I don't know this man from Adam. Why am I going to risk my life for this stranger? So again, for me, the thought of 50 marauders, armed, willing to fight for their next meal, showing up at my door, never going to happen. If it does, and you think that is a real life scenario that you might face, you best have a good defensive strategy. You best have people to defend your area. People who are willing to defend your area. Chances are, though, you are more likely to see 50 refugees walk on by than you are 50 people who are willing to die for their next meal. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? If you're one of these people that believes you can defend your property against 50 armed marauders, make a VR to it if you got a channel. If you're not, hey, throw it up in the comment section. Let me hear it. Let me hear your strategic defense plan to protect your homestead. Do you have a homestead? A lot of these people ask these type of questions because of a jealousy clause. They're jealous that Farmer Brown has a great homestead and he's got backup power supplies and he's got backup water when they barely have anything, or when they live in an apartment in the biggest city. Jealousy can rear its ugly head and make people ask dumb questions like this. So again, let me know down below. You guys have a great day. Watch out, because 50 marauders could show up at your door. Good luck. Y'all stay safe.